In this video, we are going to discuss about the differences between headers and properties. So if we look at the purpose of CPI, so we use CPI to fetch the data from one system, transform it and sends it to another system, right? So all the contents defined in the header will travel to the receiver system, and all the contents defined in the properties stays within the iFlow. So the main difference lies with its scope. So what do I mean by scope? So headers travel along with the message, while exchange properties or properties remain within the iFlow. So the header's scope is beyond the iFlow, while the properties scope lies within the iFlow, right? And one more thing is why we call them as exchange properties, not just properties. I'll show you with an example. So I have created one simple iFlow. So don't get confused with this new component. So this is content modifier. We have used initial payload to set the message body to course name. Okay. And I have used a sequential multicast step. So what this step does is it will send this message, this single message, to multiple branches in a sequential order, right? So this step will get this payload, the course name, and sends it to branch 1 and then branch 2. Okay. So in branch 1, I have used another content modifier to set the course name. Okay. I have gave a name like course at course name, and in the exchange property, I have created one property. Course name equal to SAP CPI. I have used constant, and in the next branch, I try to use it, right? I tried to get the value of that property. So I have created another property and used get course name and source type as property, right? So in the previous video we have discussed we can use properties or headers or expressions constant in while defining exchange properties and headers, right? So I try to get that property value, and in the message body as well I have tried to get the course name. So what I'm doing here is I'm setting a property in this branch and trying to access that property in the second branch. So there are two different branches. So let's try to deploy it and see if we can get the property value or not. I have deployed it and let's see the trace. So message executed successfully. So this payload will go to the first branch, and let's see if it set the property or not. Click on this end. So in the properties, you can see the course name is created, right? Course name SAP CPI. And if we look at the body, it has the initial body, the course name. Okay. And in the get course name branch, let's see if we get the property value or not. Let's check the properties, and you can see there is no get course name, right? And in the body as well, you just see course name and there is no value to it. So which means the property created in this branch cannot be accessed in another branch. In other words, this property belongs to one exchange. So exchange means, so this is one exchange and this is another exchange. So these two are different message flows. So we cannot access properties defined or created in one exchange in another exchange. So we have to very careful while defining our properties. If we define the properties in this step, in this initial payload step, then yes, we can access this in this component and this component as well. But if we define the property itself in this exchange, we call it as data exchange. That's why they are called as exchange properties. So the properties can be accessed from or within the same exchange. Okay, to close this content modifier session, let's recap on what we have learned. So let's get back to our slides. So this is the definition of content modifier. So content modifier is used to modify the incoming message or contents of the message involved in the message processing, like message headers, exchange properties, and message body. We see how we can access body, header, exchange using simple camel expressions, right? And this is the use case of content modifier. We use this to create parameters, like parameters can be anything, variables, properties, or headers. And we use content modifier to store and manipulate incoming message body. And we use this to hardcode a test payload for our test scenarios, right? So exchange properties are not handed over to the receiver system. So this is a main important thing. So this is one difference between headers and properties. These properties are not handed over to the receiver system. The scope of a property is within the scope of an iFlow. So it won't travel to receiver system. And how we access properties is using dollar curly braces property dot name. And headers are handed over to the receiver system, and the scope of header is beyond the scope of an iFlow since they travel along with the message. And this is how we access headers, header dot name, right? And message body, anything written in the message body will override the previous message, right? So it will so if you want to keep the previous message, you have to use dollar body, right? Dollar curly braces body. And if we leave the content of message body as blank in one content modifier, it will not remove the previous message. It will just skip the message and pass the message as it is to the next step. So this is one important thing to remember. So if you place content modifier and leave the message body as null and think that it will eliminate or it will remove all the incoming messages or it will null out the body, no, it won't. It will simply pass the previous message as it is to the next step, right? So that's it about content modifier. See you in the next video.